Get the best out of the markets again. You have witnessed it in 2016. 2018. 2021. Kotak Equity Colloquium is back. One of India's largest knowledge-sharing platform on the markets. The Kotak Equity Colloquium. From Kotak Mutual Fund, India's 5th largest mutual fund. Join the biggest names in the industry. Gain knowledge from their market insights. Get trends and analysis and the forecast for the future. Use their experience and share it with your investors. Deep dive into sectors which will drive the future, which may help you grow your money like never before. Get brand new perspectives and all the tools you need to grow your business. Inviting you to join the Kotak Equity Colloquium.
Hi, good evening to everyone and welcome to another edition of Equity Colloquium 2021 for the month of July. We've been carrying this series since the month of November of last year, where we've been covering various sectors with a panelist comprising of CIO, Harsha Upadhyay, Shivani, who's our head of research, and the respective research analyst, and where we've been taking you all through various sectors, starting from banking, financial services, IT, auto, home improvement, real estate, pharmaceuticals, oil and natural gas. And I think the feedback that we have got from a lot of people who have attended this program has been absolutely overwhelming. And it's been very, very encouraging for us at Kotak Mutual Fund to carry on this particular tradition of Equity Colloquium. Before we start today's program, I'd like to welcome all of you all once again. And I hope everyone is safe and sound. Dear ones, colleagues at office, everyone are doing well. And today we have with us a program where we've created a little bit of a change. This time we're not going to talk about any sectors, but we have with us Anshul Sehgal, who's our head of portfolio management services, and Ashish Jagdani, senior vice president at Kotak Portfolio Management Services. And they're going to talk to you all about the art of equity investing for the long term. And I think this is something is a topic which is of great interest. I think it's there in a lot of people's mind. I'm sure when we come across investors, when we tell them investment in equities is for the long term, they also tell us many a times that yes, this money is to be invested from 5, 10-year, 15-year perspective. But whenever there have been volatility in the markets, they're the first set of people who start getting jittery and sometimes end up taking irrational decisions. Just to give you an example, investors who probably exited the market in March or April of 2020, right at the peak of the pandemic. And if you see the kind of returns the markets have given today, there has been a huge opportunity loss for such kind of investors. And our endeavor as a community is always to see to it that how we can keep educating such investors, hand-holding them at this kind of times, taking care of their anxiety, ironing out, walking with them through the volatility of the market, and to ensure that, yes, at the end of the day, the returns that they generate on their portfolios have to be closer to the returns that have been got generated in the market. You've heard this many number of times in various studies, which says that the returns that an investor has made on his portfolio are very different from what the market returns have given you. And a lot of that is probably because of this anxiety that comes in at an investor, where they probably end up investing at the wrong time or probably removing money from the markets at the wrong time. So to demystify these different myths and thoughts, we have with us our expert panel of Anshul and Ashish, who will run us through a presentation on this particular topics. And then we will throw this forum open for question and answers. So without not taking too much time, I will hand over the podium to Anshul to take us through the presentation. And thanking each and every one of you for being part of Equity Colloquium. for 2021, and welcome once again, friends.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making the time to be here. Today, we are going to talk about the behavior of successful investing in 7 quotes. Essentially, we are going to take 7 quotes from the investing rates and elucidate those a little bit more and focus on the aspect of behavior in investing and what is required in our behavior to make us a successful investor. The first point that we would want to refer to is that stocks are businesses and not tickers. This is a mental model that is critical in our judgment to ensuring long-term success in the markets. Benjamin Graham, in his book, The Intelligent Investor, says, a stock is not just a ticker symbol or an electronic blip. It is an ownership interest in an actual business with an underlying value that does not depend on its share price. What he mentions here is that the share price can be detached from the business of a company. And if we look at each stock as a business and that our interest in that stock is a partnership in that business, then we will approach our investments very differently from investing in a stock thinking that it is a ticker, because an up move or a down move in that ticker will give us palpitations. And we need to stay away from those palpitations, right decisions in that regard. Take the example of this one stock, APL Apollo Tubes. Now, this company used to trade at 500 rupees sometime in early 2018. And by early 2020, the stock had fallen to as much as 200 rupees. So that's nearly a 60% fall from the 3-year highs. Anybody following the ticker and making decisions based on the ticker would have been highly unnerved by this sort of a move and would have exited the name. But what was important to focus on was the business, that the EBITDA of the company in the last 7 years had nearly tripled, had gone from 165 crores to as much as 477 crores. And this was at a time when the stock was falling. This was a leading player in its space. It was a company which had 40% market share, where capacity was underutilized. It had 2.5 million tons capacity, only 1.4 million tons was utilized. The competitive advantage of this business was the ability to value add and create products which competition did not have, which allowed this company to generate higher cash flows, which it could kind of invest in its own business. And of course, this was the only focused player. There were others which were there also in this business, but they had multiple businesses, of which this business was one of them. This business meaning that of structural tubes. Being a focused player, this company could make the right decisions, create the right network, and identify the right products to cater to the markets. In many ways, it was the market leading and the market creating business, this one. What happened thereafter is this, that you had the stock falling from 500 to 200, and thereafter from March 2020, from 200, it rallied to 1600 rupees, nearly an 8 times rally. So anybody who got unnerved by the stock price or the ticker would have exited sometime in this period of the stock falling from 500 to 200 and let go of the rally that played out thereafter because they did not appreciate the business. But if you appreciated the business and you realized that the business was doing exceedingly well, then this fall in the ticker of the stock would have not unnerved you. You would have focused on the business, and eventually that played out very well for you. As they say in Hindi, Bhagwan ke ghar der hai, andher nahi. Many examples in the markets where the stock price ignores the business for a long period of time, and thereafter, as the markets start focusing on business, value gets unlocked. This is a prime example, a recent example of that. Staying calm is a superpower. Essentially, in the markets, there is a tendency to of many investors to act a lot. Now, take this video, and you will notice here that this is a gentleman in the sea in a canoe, and he sees this fin coming out right next to his boat, that of a whale. Now, this gentleman has two options. Either he, kind of creates a ruckus and attracts attention from the whale, or he just sits still and he lets the whale pass. And he chooses the latter, and clearly the whale passes him by. Markets are no different. The more you act and the less calm you are, the greater is the chance that the markets will eat you, markets being the whale. As regards the quote, Jeff Bezos once asked Warren Buffett that his style was so simple, why doesn't everyone copy it? And Buffett answered that because no one copies him, because no one wants to get rich slow. The point that Buffett was trying to make is that investors want to get rich fast, and as a result, they act a lot, and that works against them. Now, we culled out some data on the markets, and we noticed that in returns for the last 20 years, returns each year, a few number of days, only a few days, those contribute maximum to those returns. And these are what we did is that we identified 3% plus days over the last 20 years and tried to identify how much of a contribution these days have on returns for those years. Now, take the example of calendar year 20, and in this 1 year, Nifty till June has gained about 1733 points. And on one day, which is 1st Feb, Nifty gained as much as 4.7% or 647 points. Now, if you missed this 1 day, you would have been deprived of 37% of full year returns. So significant contribution of that of the returns for this calendar year has been from that 1 day. Similarly, if we take returns over an 11-year period from Jan 2010 till date, Nifty has gained as much as 9,618 points. And in this period, 21 days account for as much as 7,091 points, or 73% of the total returns of the markets. Now, clearly, it's not that you could benefit from these 21 days by being out of the markets for the remaining 10, 11 years. To benefit from these days, you needed to be in the markets in the remaining period, which involved ups and downs. And so to benefit, you need to be able to stay calm in down periods and really bear those down periods and benefit when the up, the up days play out. And that's really what is required. Staying calm in the markets, riding the downs for the ups, eventual ups, is a prerequisite for success in the markets, and that cannot be overemphasized. The importance of inaction and of staying calm in the markets. Having a risk-return mindset is again something that is critical in ensuring that one is successful in the markets. What Stanley Druckenmiller says is that it is not whether you're right or wrong that's important, but how much money you make when you're right and how much you lose when you're wrong, that is critical. So this understanding of risk reward, that if I'm wrong here, I will not lose much money, and if I'm right here, I will make a lot of money. That risk reward mindset is again is critical to have success in the equity markets. Let's look at an example from sports. If you see here, in the first IPL, in the bidding for IPL teams, we noticed that Rajasthan Royals bid the least. They were at about $4.1 million spent for everybody spending over nearly $6 million and higher, and the top team spending over $7 million. Now, what the management of Rajasthan Royals suggested is that while other franchisees bought teams to build a marketing platform for their brands or good connect with consumers, for us, IPL was a serious business and we treated it like one. We had a clear business plan with a strong focus on our investments and potential return on that. We didn't want stars, we wanted performers. And we all know that in that IPL, the first IPL, Rajasthan Royals eventually won. So despite spending the lowest, the outcome was the most favorable. This risk-reward mindset is something that that can be extrapolated to the markets as well. And let's look at two cases. And we've particularly kept these cases 20 years apart just to show that in many ways, while markets change, but they also remain the same. Valuations matter. Perception of quality is not a sufficient consideration. Let's look at the story of Infosys versus Tata Steel in the year 2000 and that of Hindustan Unilever versus Tata Steel in 2020. In the year 2000, you had Infosys actually falling 40%, while you had in the same time, this is over a 3-year period, Tata Steel going up nearly 3 times in that same period. Now, clearly, if we looked at the valuations, Tata Steel at that time was trading at under 1-time book and a price to earnings ratio of 7 times. While at the same time, Infosys was trading at nearly 100 times price to earnings ratio. And there's no relevance of price to book in the case of Infosys, but on a price to earnings basis, it was trading at a significant premium. Now, what really happened at this time is that Infosys, despite compounding its earnings by 37 to 38% over an 8 to 9 year period, delivered no returns. And definitely in this 3-4 year period, it delivered far less returns, in fact, negative returns in comparison to Tata Steel, which did exceedingly well. The reason was that most of the upside of earnings was already built into Infosys, while in the case of Tata Steel, the upside in earnings was a surprise. And as a result, Tata Steel actually re-rated quite meaningfully. And the outperformance of Tata Steel is for everyone to see here. Valuations matter. While Infosys was in terms of quality, a far greater quality company, it was a secular growth company. But at the price that one was buying Infosys at that time, there was really no money to be made. While in the case of Tata Steel being a cyclical name, there was a lot of money to be made at that time because the valuations were in the investors' favor. Similarly, let's look at a recent example, 2020, last 1 year. In that period, while you had Hindustan Unilever being flat, Tata Steel has more than doubled. This is a dated chart. It has more than doubled since then. And that tells you again that in this period, while HUL, which is a secular growth company, a great company, and the business model will consistently generate cash flows, unlike in the case of Tata Steel, where the cash flows will yo-yo. Despite that, Tata Steel is a far better returning company in this time because the valuations were favorable. In case of Tata Steel, valuations were at 0.5 times book and 6 times price to earnings at the mid of last year, while that same number for Hindustan Unilever was 70 times price to earnings. Valuations, even in a great company, left nothing for an investor to gain. And as a result, what we saw is significant outperformance in a cyclical name where valuations were favorable. So risk-return mindset, the perception of downside to upside is something that is critical in being successful in the markets, as the greats have suggested in the past. Independent thinking or contrarian thinking, I cannot overemphasize this one point. Jim Rogers says, when everybody is on one side of the boat, you should go to the other side. Isn't it logical that if everyone in a boat is on one side of the boat is, the likelihood of the boat sinking is much greater than if the crowd is dispersed. And for that reason, to save one's own self, one should be on the other side of the boat. It goes the same in the markets that when the trade is crowded in one space, it is better to not be in that space and to be on the other side of the space. In fact, the examples that I just gave you of Tata Steel versus Infosys, as also Tata Steel versus Hindustan Unilever, are also examples of this one trait. And it requires a lot of independent thinking. It requires contrarian thinking. Again, we'll take something from sport. In 2015 and 16, Leicester City won the English Premier League. Now, this is probably amongst the greatest underdog stories in the world of football. They, in fact, as they entered the Premier League, they had odds of 5,000 to 1, meaning for each dollar bet on Leicester City winning, if they eventually won, they would make as much as the investor would make as much as $5,000 from that one trade. And what compounded these odds against Leicester City was that since 1995 till 2015-16, as much as 20-21 years, you had only 4 teams which had won the EPL, and they used to keep revolving amongst themselves. So clearly, this was a great underdog story. And what gave success to these teams in the Premier League was that there was conventional wisdom of having a high possession of the ball as also passing accuracy. Now, the average champion team would have a higher possession of as much as 58% versus Leicester typically having 43%. As also, the average champion would have as much accuracy as 80%, while Leicester had only 70%. So that made them clearly underdogs to win the Premier League. But what they did is that they focused on counterattacks rather than conventional strategy of higher possession. They also played a deep defense, which allowed them to thwart any attacks on their side, on their goal. And they also allowed the other teams to have possession. What this strategy did is that eventually they scored the highest goals in the tournament, and they went ahead and won the tournament. Now, so an underdog of 1 to 5,000 actually went and won this tournament. Clearly, there was contrarian thinking here in how they strategized. There was independent thinking, and that independent thinking worked in their favor. They went ahead and won the tournament. Now, a similar underdog story is that of, say an ICICI Bank. And we've kept the timeline prior to 2020 COVID, because after COVID, it can be easily construed that all stocks have rallied, so also ICICI, and hence, where is the contrarian thinking in investing in ICICI Bank? But if you consider ICICI Bank prior to 2020, there was complete investor apathy for nearly a 2 to 3 year period, where the NPA cycle was ballooning. There were questions on corporate governance. We all know that NX, there were issues regarding how the management was managing its affairs. And the growth was slowing down because when there is a fire in the house, one is actually looking to bring the fire down rather than go out and play cricket. And that's really what was happening in the case of ICICI Bank, that there was an NPA cycle which was hurting them, and they were focused more on managing NPAs as also management issues rather than going out and growing, and hence growth was slowing down. But if one looked beyond these aspects which the whole market knew, and which is why the ICICI Bank stock was trading at a far greater discount to most competition, there were multiple aspects which told you that this is temporary, that all issues were resolvable. The NPA cycle had peaked and it was likely to come down. Management change was inevitable. In fact, there was enough talk telling us that there was a new management which was going to take over. And with sufficient capital adequacy of about 19%, they had ample room to grow. It's just that they were choosing not to grow at that time because of the issues that they had in hand. Even the numbers told us a similar story. Now in 2018, NPS peaked out at about 9.9% gross NPL ratio, which tapered down to 7.4% in FY19. And the expectation for FY20 and 21 was far lower than that. With a tapering of NPS, management issues likely to get resolved, there was all likelihood that this stock, which was the most discounted stock versus other peers, would see an uptick in valuations, and there would be room for a valuation uptick in the name. What we saw thereafter is that the stock actually rallied 3x in 3 years, and it was probably amongst the best performing banking stock at that time. And this is all prior to COVID. As ROEs expanded, the stock price reacted positively as NPS came down, and that really allowed this bank to outperform all peers. Again, independent thinking, contrarian thinking would allow one to look beyond what is apparent and what the street is thinking. And in this case, everyone on the street was on one side of the boat, which was on the bearish side. That gave us favorable valuations, combining risk-reward assessment, combining independent and contrarian thinking, as also understanding the dynamic of the company through a second-order thinking allowed one to actually generate superior returns on this name versus many players on the street. I'm now going to hand it over to Ashish to take the rest of the presentation forward, please.
Good evening, everyone. I will now be sharing 3 important aspects of behavior in successful investing. First, staying within the circle of competence. This is a key point every investor should keep in mind while evaluating his or her investment. Investment guru Charlie Munger highlights, to be a successful investor, it is important to know your own aptitude and edge and leverage these qualities to play within your circle of competence. Let's understand this better. We have an urge to invest in businesses that are in vogue, and I'm sure everyone will agree on this. I don't think there's anything wrong in having an urge to invest in new generation businesses. But the real question that we should ask ourselves, do we understand the business model well? Let's take the example of Amazon. I'm sure everyone would love to invest in Amazon. But do we understand the business model and risks of this model? Are we familiar with the fact that business segments are all profitable? And more importantly, are cash flows sustainable? On the contrary, would investors like to invest in a boring sector of innerwear, say example, Lux Industries? At the first instance, I would believe most investors would be apprehensive. But if you really think from the circle of competence, do you understand the business model? Yes. Being a single product company, can you look at the future profitability of this business? Quite certainly. And Lux as a brand, can you resonate with this amongst the larger population? Most likely. I think most investors would question this thesis of how a boring innerwear business of Lux would create as much value as a new generation business of Amazon. It is interesting to see this comparison of stock price charts of both Amazon and Lux over a period of last 5 years for 2016 to 2021. The stock prices clearly reflect how Lux Industries has created much value and more compared to Amazon over the last 5 years. The key point here is to invest in businesses and not stock prices and market sentiments. Businesses should be within the circle of competence for ultimate value creation. Peter Lynch has nicely covered this point in his quote, "Know what you own and why you own it." I now move on to another aspect of behavior investing. Avoid loss aversion. This is easier said than done, and I'm sure you all will all agree to this. Far more money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections, or rather trying to anticipate corrections, than losing money in corrections themselves. The most common questions we get from investors in the current times is it the best time to invest in markets? I think our understanding of investor psyche suggests most investors are worried when markets and stocks are falling, as they act adversely in panic. The key important lesson is not to convert your notional loss into real loss. This is a very important aspect of behavior of successful investing. This clearly ties in with something that we highlighted in the session earlier of staying calm and invested in times of panic. It is in times of distress when investors are worried and they act in panic and book their losses, although this is the best time to invest. If you look at historical returns of markets in times of extreme volatility, you clearly demonstrate this, that you have to avoid your notional loss you have to avoid converting your notional loss into real loss. If you see in SARS, when the markets had corrected 10% in 2003, 1 year immediately post that, you've seen a return of 85%. Even take the global financial crisis, Nifty had corrected 50% in 2008. And 1 year and 2 years post the global financial crisis, markets had returned close to 100%. Let's take the example of COVID itself, and we've all seen through this. January to March, Nifty had corrected close to 30%. And post-March, we all know how markets have done. It's returned close to 85% in the last 1 year. So it's very clear that we have to avoid our loss aversion. I now move on to the third and last aspect on behavior for successful investing. Invest for the long term. It is said the longer you extend your time horizon, the less competitive the game becomes. Over time, it is learned that investor behavior pattern drives higher risk-adjusted returns. If you look at Nifty's trends of 2-year, 5-year, and 10-year rolling returns, they clearly suggest that probability of a positive return rises with longer investment horizons. Example, if you have an investor who's invested for a 2-year rolling return basis, there is a 75% chance that he will get positive returns, while there is a 25% probability that he will have losses. On the other hand, if there is an investor who's invested for a 10-year period, there is a 100% chance of him getting positive returns. This clearly highlights of having to invest with a long-term horizon. As simply highlighted by Peter Lynch, when you buy a stock, the way you buy your house, it is looked at the best form of return on a longer-term investment horizon. And finally, the famous quote from Markets from Charlie Munger sums it up well. Big money is not in buying and selling, but in waiting. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your patient listening, and back to you, Anshul, for taking this forward. Thank you.
In summary, for successful investing, of course, there are innumerable behavioral patterns that one needs to follow, but the most critical ones, which we have identified through our experience, are these 7. And in many ways, they encompass a whole lot of behavioral patterns. Stocks are businesses, not tickers. Having a mindset like that. Staying calm at times when things around us are anxiety causing. Having an independent contrarian thinking, having a risk return mindset, avoiding loss aversion, and investing for the long term. These are all mindsets which allow an investor to be successful in the markets and to make decisions which will generate market-beating returns over the long term. Thank you for your patience. We are very happy to take questions.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.